For presentation are extractions of important speeches, events and conversations.
So that we have good people who will be responsible and who will qualify to be ashabs of the Imam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Learning from the Health series from Awakening project of the KSI Muslim community. In this series of presentation are extractions of important speeches, events and conversations which is for the benefit of our community at large. Awakening project is a grassroots-led project which looks at the challenges from the facing the community and how the foundational institutions of the community such as family, madrasa member can deal with them. You will find most of this information available at the Awakening project of the KSI Muslim community website. Included is the series of the YouTube presentations that you will find them interesting. I have with me a well-known personality, Muhsin Dharamsi. He does not need any introduction. I think most of those who have stayed in the West in the Khoja community, KSI community, knows about Muhsin Bhai, at least have heard about him. His contribution in the community ran parallel with many developments of the Jamaats in the UK, in Europe. I understand that he is a foundational member of, or rather through his advice, Edinburgh Jamaat was formed. He also assisted in the formation of the Kuwaiti Jamaat. He has been associated with many of the developments programs of the institutions, Jamaat, federations and World Federation, particularly in the youth development. He was a past Secretary General of the World Federation. Now he lives in Bhavnagar, where I am at, and he is heavily involved in the education and the development of the youth in Bhavnagar, and in fact in Gujarat. Welcome, Muhsin.
Thank you.
Well, Muhsin Bhai, I have known you for a long period of time. I met you when I came to the United Kingdom, and we were building Essex Jamaat, and at that time you had come to assist us. This was the beginning of our sort of partnership, if I can put it like that, because I subsequently became Secretary General of the World Federation, and you were instrumental in giving me direction in that institution. So here you are in Bhavnagar, still at it. What made you sort of still participate in this sort of contribution to the community and all that sort of thing? So what's still sort of driving you towards it?
Yeah, my
just your thoughts first.
Right. My main aim in life has not changed since I was at the age of 13. I had a feeling that when I leave this world, it needs to be a better place than when I found it.
Oh, mashallah.
And later then I focused it further that I need to work with the youths and the community so that we have good people who will be responsible and who will qualify to be ashabs of the Imam. And that is a massive project, and it keeps me going all the time.
Okay. Well, I know since I've come here, I have visited the Mahdi School, isn't it? Mahdi School run under Mahdi Foundation of Bhavnagar. And you are really heavily involved with the university development aspect of it as well, which we will come to later on. What I want to do in the beginning is to just talk to us about your birthplace, the school days, your mom and dad, how did you sort of, what was the life like when you were young, very briefly, and then sort of we move on to the other aspect of your life. So start with the school days, maybe.
Right. Yeah. After I was born in Pemba, when I was 5 years old, my father decided to move to Zanzibar for our education because there were no schools in Pemba. And there I personally was very keen in education. For example, when my elder brother was taken to school for admission, I cried because I also wanted to go to school. Then I went to school, and then the headmaster, Mr. Arjani, he said, "Don't worry, you relax at home with your parents, come back next year and I will take you in the school." The same thing happened in the madrasa. I wept a lot because I was not allowed, I was too young to go. So Alhamdulillah, with Allah's blessing, I was keen on education right from the beginning. I got educated in Zanzibar up to standard 12, and then I left for England, where I qualified as a civil engineer.
Right. So when you came to United Kingdom, how old were you?
I was 18 years old, and when I arrived there, at that time there was just one Khoja family in the whole of the United Kingdom, and that was the Sharif Jiwa family.
Where were they staying in London?
They were staying in Barnet in London.
So that was the first Khoja family?
The first Khoja family there. And when I arrived in London, there were only 13 Khoja students who were studying.
And this is in 1958?
58.
Okay.
And then they all came, the 13 of them, to the airport to receive me, and they helped me settle down.
Can you name some of the people who came to receive you?
Yes, there was Anwar Rajpar, there was Hussein Nathu was there, Bashir Versi was there. And we all worked together. And we had a common goal. We used to organize majlises at the Barnet, and we used to organize everything, and they were very good. They provided good niyaz for us as students to eat, and it was nice for us.
Okay, I'll come back to you on that, because I think that then began the sort of rudiment, or rather the nurturing of the subsequent development of the Jamaat.
Yes.
So I'll come back to that. But let me go back to Zanzibar. What about your parents, mom and dad? How much sort of inspiration that they give you towards moving towards education, further education? Your dad and mom, how much role did they play?
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me again with my grandparents, and my parents encouraged education quite a lot. For example, my dadima would make me, after giving me a bath, he would make me sit on a chair, and then in those days they would cover you in a cloth and put luban under you to smoke you. You became like a smoked salmon.
You smelled nice.
I smelled nice afterwards. And while she was doing that, I would read the Quran. She used to love to listen to the Quran. I would read the Quran, and depending on how much I read and how good it was, she would then reward me for some.
So can I ask you about your grandparents?
Yes.
I mean, where did they originally come from?
My grandparents, my grandfather came from Kutch, and at the age of 14, he was born in Ismaili. He at the age of 14, because of the famine in Kutch, he was the eldest son, so his father sent him to Africa.
So he was Ismaili when he came to Africa?
Yes, he was an Ismaili. He was already thinking of being an Isnashri, because first his father sent him to Mumbai. And when he went to Mumbai, he did not like it there, because everybody was speaking in English, and he didn't know anything, he didn't have any schooling. So he came back to Kutch, and then decided to go to sail on a dhow, a 3-month trip to Zanzibar.
So, do you remember what year was that?
It was about 1880.
So 1880, your grandfather?
Grandfather, at the age of 16, he went there.
Okay.
And
but he already had that to feeling towards Ishnashri faith.
Yes, yes, because of the Mullah Qadir in
Mullah Qadir Hussain Karbalai.
Karbala in Mumbai.
Right.
And listening to him, he used to go out to the lectures every day. And when he came to Zanzibar, he lived in the Ismaili Musafar Khana. And then somebody gave him a job. But he decided, because he was a farmer's son, he decided after a couple of years to go to Pemba. And then that's where he cleared the jungles. First he tried to understand the clove industry. He bought himself a donkey and used to transport cloves to the city and other produce to the town of Chake Chake.
And all this you knew when you were a child, that this is
Yes,
what you...
yes,
Oh,
yes,
my.
yes.
So that was a lifestyle that
Yes.
you had. Can I come back to the family? I mean, how many brothers and sisters have you?
Yeah, we are 10 brothers and sisters.
Right.
And what is interesting, again, when we go back to education, my mother was born an orphan. She never went to school, but she was educated by her mother, who was Mulyani Kulsumbai Abdullah Khimji, who was a great alima, Zakira. She used to travel throughout East Africa and Madagascar reciting majalis in Kutchi.
In Kutch?
In Kutchi, yes.
Oh. And have you heard that?
Yes, yes, I have heard that, and
Including the Gambayan?
yes, yes, everything was in Kutchi,
Okay.
right? And in the beginning she used to read from a book, and then later she started reading in extempore. Then one lady in Vancouver has got all her recordings. She has kept them.
So it's good archival material.
Very good archival material. And what I found interesting when I was studying in London, I had gone to Dar es Salaam 1962 and I met my Nanima, and she was talking to me about neutrons, protons, and I said, Nanima, these neutrons and protons, where do you get this knowledge from? She says, from our books. You people think it is only in your science books. It is in our books. I can tell you all about neuron. Yeah.
That's a surprise for you.
Very surprising for me.
Right.
And you see, my father, when he was in standard 1, my grandfather removed him from school because they were poor. And he said, Hussein, I can't afford to educate you. Come and help me in the shop.
This is your father now?
Yes, my father. So at that time, it hurt my father. He wanted to study. So somehow Allah has blessed us that throughout in our family, education is in our blood, right from that time.
And all your brothers and sisters have been educated to quite a high level?
High level. Because of my father's decision. When he was taken out of school, he made 2 decisions. Okay. At the age of 6, he made 2 decisions. Number 1, I'm alone in the family. I'm the only son. When I get married, I will have lots and lots of children. So after getting married, he had 10 children, 5 sons and 5 daughters. And then second decision, I will educate all of them to a very high level. And he sent all of us to university.
Outside Zanzibar?
Yes. So he made that decision.
So then all of you ended up in United Kingdom?
United Kingdom.
Yeah, in time.
In time.
Can I come back to United Kingdom and start that
Yes.
When you came to study
Yes.
and you had these 13 students come to receive you.
Yes.
Now, as I understand it, then you went on to sort of make Ishnashri Union
Yes.
in London?
Yes, we made an East Africa Ishnashri Union, and that was the prime mover of that was Anwar Rajpar. I remember very clearly because in those days it was the first time in London at that meeting for the formation of the union that Anwar Rajpar insisted that we should use the word Khoja.
Anwar Rajpar?
Anwar Rajpar
What
insisted.
was the rationale behind it?
He explained to us that we were Khojas and we should keep our identity.
Okay.
right? Otherwise, he said, in England we will all be, in the student union and movement, we will all be smothered.
Okay.
And
So
then
he
I
had-
started
he had that,
he had that vision at that time,
yeah, right.
and that was 1959 when the union was formed.
Mm.
And I didn't know the word Khoja, who Khojas were. I didn't have that knowledge. Then I started looking into it.
So then subsequently it led on to becoming a formation of a Jamaat.
The
then,
Jamaat.
yeah.
After the people.
So this was in the Hammersmith time?
The Jamaat became after Hammersmith, after the people came from Uganda.
So
They
Hammersmith was bought first, or Jamaat came into existence?
No,
and then
Jamaat became after.
All right, Jamaat became after.
After.
So how was Hammersmith?
Hammersmith was bought by, again, Marhum Habib Walji. He was a great visionary. As soon
This
as
is Habib, Marhum
Marhum
Habib
Habib
from
Walji,
Uganda.
from Uganda, yes. The first thing he did, he bought that church in Hammersmith, and I was working in Makkah. I had come for holiday, so he called me, he showed me, and he asked me about the renovation of the place, of the Hammersmith. And then my wife was with me, and it's very interesting because Habib Walji said that we are going to renovate this. Upstairs will be gents and downstairs will be ladies. So my wife said, "Oh, I see, women are like mice, you put them underground." And immediately Habib Walji changed his mind. He gave the upstairs to ladies and downstairs was gents.
So your wife's intervention was good?
Was good, yes. Yes.
Right. So the first empowerment.
Yes.
Okay. So, so you were involved in the formation of London Jamaat, would you say?
No, I was not there.
You weren't.
I was not there. But Habib Walji again, when he then went to Peterborough, he bought Peterborough the mosque, and that was.
So would you say that our first Jamaat was formed in Peterborough? Or
no, in London.
London.
In London.
So London had already formed a Jamaat.
Yes.
I mean
yes.
that is both north and south.
Yes,
So
there was just one Jamaat at that time.
Right. Okay.
Right. And then in Peterborough, our first mosque, proper mosque, was built.
So first Masjid of
But
Khoja
masjid
Shia Ishnashri
was built in Peterborough.
was built in 1972 maybe?
It was in the 72,
Right,
73.
73.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Because that was after the exodus of
Yeah.
the Ugandan nations, yeah.
And then later on, he encouraged the formation of Leicester Jamaat, and again the Leicester Center. He was
So
instrumental.
were you involved with all those things?
I was involved generally in planning. He would consult me because I was a civil engineer. If I can go further, because later on when the World Federation was formed, every Jamaat in the Western world was new. They all wanted centers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was involved there, and the plans would come to the World Federation. Mullah would not agree to giving just the money. He wanted to see the plans properly.
Yeah.
And he would give me all the plans for approval.
So you then made sure that the constructions and the costings and all that
Yes,
sort
was
of matched
correct.
up,
Yes.
and it was a viable project.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was.
And you, I think you visited Jamaats as well.
I
to
used
make
to
sure
visit Jamaats also. Yes.
that they've carried out the due diligence and
Yes,
all that.
yes.
Because I remember that's how it used to be.
Yes. And I also, in those days, I used to believe in empowerment. In one Jamaat was rather difficult, and they were giving the president of the Jamaat a difficult time, and they wanted all the decisions to be made by me. So I told the president, decisions now, the plan is ready, everything is ready. Now some decisions you have to make.
Right.
So he would make decisions and tell them, did Muhsin agree with this? Yes, Muhsin fully agrees with it.
Right.
They would phone me that this has been done. I said, yes, it's a very good idea.
Yeah. In fact, if I may say so, most of the projects, particularly in the small Jamaats, I think you had a very decisive role to play. Because if the community knew Muhsin agreed, they were very happy.
Yes.
So I just want to move on now, because you were Secretary General of the World Federation. Perhaps you can talk about, so your activity in the Jamaat was mainly on this aspect of development of the centers and all that, because in the 80s
Yes.
and the 70s, this was a dire need for
Yes.
our community, and you
Yes.
were heavily involved with that
Yes.
through institutions.
Yes.
But then the World Federation was formed,
Yes.
and then you positioned into a Secretary General.
Mhm.
Mullah Sahib nominated you, appointed you,
Yes. Mullah Sahib appointed me.
you,
Yes.
and you worked as Secretary General.
Yes. For 3
Give me your
years.
thoughts when it started, and did you have a tumultuous time during World Federation? How was the World Federation progressing at that time? What were people's aspirations towards it? You know, whatever your thoughts are, it'd be interesting to.
Yeah,
know
in those
that.
days, the World Federation, the funds coming to the World Federations was very little, but the work that was being done was quite large. We concentrated on influencing people to make the right decisions, and then if money was required, then the World Federation would give.
Where was the
And
money coming from, mainly?
It was mainly from donations, and our donors in those days were always small donors, and we relied heavily on the postal system. P.K. Merali gave us an office in Rayners Lane, and we used that office. We kept one secretary, and she would, I was working, so first thing she would do is she would open all the letters and record them what has come, and then at 1 o'clock in my lunch time she would phone me, and she would read all the letters and I would dictate the replies.
This
And
is how
then
the secretariat was
work
functioning.
was functioning.
Right.
And then in the evening after work I would go to the office and sign all the letters,
Right.
and then next day she would post.
So this is now period
80.
late 70s, early 80s, I take
Yeah,
it.
it was 80 to 83, that
Right,
period.
Right. This is how
This is how the
you
World
were functioning.
Federation was working, yes.
Right. And what sort of work was involved? I mean, at that time, was it just sort of giving money, or
No, it
how
was-
was the decisions made then? Did you
The
used to have
decisions were,
meetings?
no, generally, yes, so we set up the system of the Executive Council to meet.
Well, every 3
For
months.
every decision had to be made by the council.
Secretary didn't used to make any
No,
decisions?
because Hasnain Walji and I thought that was not the right decision to give somebody that power. They would make, the executive would make a global decision,
Right.
and then the detail we would make.
All right.
But
okay.
we had no.
So the overall decision was made by the executive, and you just carried out those
Those
decisions,
decisions.
and the administrative decisions you made by yourselves. Okay.
And it's very interesting that once there was an executive council meeting, and it was snowing heavily, and I was the only one in the office. When the time came for the meeting, I opened the meeting. I was sitting there. I opened the meeting
Yourself,
myself.
and close the meeting yourself.
I read the agenda
Right.
and all the projects.
Right.
I read them out. I thought about it. I approved them or rejected them, and then I closed the meeting. And then I wrote the minutes.
And what happened?
And then the councillors thought, oh my God, there is something wrong in the constitution, because the constitution did not talk of quorum for the executive.
Oh,
There was no quorum.
So you decided to
I was
show
a
it up. Yeah.
I was a secretary general.
Right.
I made the decisions. Then the quorum clause was put in
Was
the
it in, yeah.
constitution.
Was there a time that you felt that World Federation wasn't going anywhere, and or did you feel that the development was quite sort of?
No, I felt that the developments were good, and right around the world you could see that there were developments happening. Only once when we were short of funds, because our budget was very little. I think hardly we were getting £2,000 per annum.
Okay, so £2,000 per annum.
Per annum. And then once there was no money in the bank, the secretary's salary was £36. No, it was £39, and in the bank we had £36. So I could not even pay the secretary.
Okay,
Right. So I called a meeting of all the presidents of UK.
right.
Then I put this to them. I said,
That
look,
you have to
World
shut down
Federation
our-
cannot run like this.
Right.
We have to close down the World Federation, or you make some arrangements.
So it was as stark as that.
Yes.
Right.
3 pounds only.
Okay. But what happened then?
And then Marhum Jafar Asaria from
Dr. Jafar
Dr.
Asaria.
Jafar Asaria,
Yeah.
he was there.
Right.
He says the World Federation is a great initiative and it can do a lot. It does not matter. We have no money. Don't close the World Federation. Let it lie stagnant.
Right.
One day it will be revived again. But at that time, then
Did anyone put money then?
yes,
Yeah,
if
okay.
some
So
money
people
came,
together, yeah.
then it started.
Okay, I want to now move forward on to further development. So you then somehow you became the anchor man in the World Federation. You know, I mean,
Yes, sir.
synonymous. Hasnain Walji and yourself were synonymous in that sense with World Federation.
Now, since the World Federation was formed, because Mullah Sahib got me involved in 1976, I used to work in Edinburgh, and then he said, I would like you to come to the founding conference. The constitution will be passed. I said, if I am coming to the conference and I need to, the constitution be passed, I need to see the constitution. Then the constitution was sent to me. And the only thing I remember about the changes, the word Muslim in the title was my decision.
Really?
Because you can see throughout the world, we are just KSI Jamaat, there is no Muslim in it.
So you put Muslim.
I put Muslim.
So it used to be just KSI.
KSI.
That has been the development from, I suppose, East Africa.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Muhammad Bhai Dhani at one time did tell me that we didn't have Muslim. It was just KSI.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you see, until that time, the KSI Jamaats were only in the East. And in the East, they all know Shia Nationalists, they are Muslims. But we are now in the West.
right.
Nobody knows Shia, nobody knows Isnashri. So I suggested we must put Muslim, and it was passed in the Constitutional Conference 76, and that was added.
So when did you sort of became quite involved, heavily involved in full time?
Straight from that.
From then onwards.
From then
you were-
onwards, wherever I went, I used to get involved and got a lot. Because you see, I don't know, I hope Hasnain Walji is not upset if I mention this.
he won't be upset.
He won't be upset.
No. I know Hasnain very well.
Because you see, in Edinburgh, you get, in those days, in the 70s, Maulanas used to come to London, Muharram, go away, come back, Chehlum, go away. What about us? In the north, all the way, there were so many Jamaats. So I used to write to London Jamaat that your Maulana comes after the 12th of Muharram, the next northern Jamaat sends you the ticket, you send him to them. They look after him. The next northern Jamaat pay for him to go to them, and so on. They will reach Edinburgh, Glasgow, and then down again. And then, so somehow London Jamaat did not agree with it, and Hasnain Walji was the secretary
Of London.
London Jamaat. And he remembers very clearly that last letter I wrote to close the chapter.
Right.
I said, I am so fed up with the non-decision making of London Jamaat, I have decided to emigrate, because I was being transferred to Doha.
So you played that game.
I played that game. And he remembers that statement till today.
Okay, now what I want you to perhaps do, if you don't mind, because World Federation from middle of 80 onwards, took off.
Yes.
And took off quite to a different level.
Yes.
So, you know, if you can describe in a summary form milestone developments, like for example, you had the Medical Advisory Board, you know, the board development,
Yeah.
the Zainabiyya, the Islamic Education Board, the way you saw it as it developed until such time when you left the World Federation. If you can just give us your sort of perspective.
Yeah. We were young people, and there were a lot of young people, and because we had come to England to study, and our thinking was different, and we were also very keen to work for the community. and most of the boards and the concept, the idea was seeded by Mullah always.
Mullah had a vision.
Vision, he had a vision, because he thought.
What did you?
For
how
example,
how did you see the vision he had? What was your perspective of that?
his vision was to make sure that our community developed to a very high level. We were all educated and healthy, and every one of us had a house and a good income. And he wanted that everywhere.
So he wanted to distribute the wealth within the community, so that the poor can come up. Yeah.
Come up, yeah. Now, for example, how did the medical board did advisory board? They did a lot. Because
under Dr. Walji.
Under Dr. Walji, but before
that to Amilaka.
And Dr. Amilaka, yes. And I think Dr. Amilaka was the first doctor who went to Hajj, was the Hajj medical mission. Because that was the start. Mullah wanted the Hujjaj to be looked after. But when he came back after that, and then with Dr. Walji, then they decided to form the medical board.
Right.
Because then to cater for the East African sick people who were coming to UK for for treatment. So that started it, and then later it became to help the people of India.
And this was under the guardianship of Dr. Walji.
Dr. Walji.
Because
Dr.
he
Walji.
then subsequently produced a lot of data as well for East African population, as well as a lot of health work was done by him and his team.
Yes.
I think,
and his idea was that we must.
This is Dr. Walji's
Dr.
idea.
Walji. Dr. Walji, that we must concentrate on primary health care. He really hammered that in, and when a clinic was opened by the World Federation, I think it was Hyderabad. Then Dr. Walji went after a year to take a report. They said the clinic is doing very good. We started with I don't know, say 5 patients a day. Now Alhamdulillah we got 5,000 patients a day. They said Alhamdulillah we got 5,000 patients a day. So Dr. Walji said, excuse me, that is not progress. You are going down. Progress means you can tell me that there is not a single patient per day.
That's the medical
That is progress.
Yeah.
And then he concentrated a lot on
prevention.
And in Govandi he did a lot for the people of Govandi.
I think at the same time he did a lot of preventive work within our own Khoja Shia Ishnasi community as well.
Yes, he did that.
On thalassemia and what was the other one? On AIDS at the time.
Yes.
It brought in some reforms as well. Yeah. So what about then the Zainabia child sponsorship scheme?
Zainabia,
what is your perspective on that?
It happened in 1980. Mullah told Hasnain Walji, as you know, Mullah had some group like you who were with him. Mullah was always.
I was at a later.
Late, but he would always concentrate on these people and would work with you. He worked with you a lot. So in those days, he used to work with Hasnain Walji, and he told Hasnain Walji, "I want to educate the people of India. Do me a scheme." Propose something.
He talked to Hasnain.
Hasnain,
right? Okay.
in June 1980. June. So Hasnain called me. I went to him and he said, "Look, Mullah Sahab wants this. Now think about it. How shall we do it?" So it took me 6 months. I became. I started sponsoring children through Oxfam and other groups, and I was seeing how they function. It was only to see the functioning.
Right.
My aim was not to sponsor, unfortunately. Anyway, the niyat was that. I studied the whole scheme, and then I produced a scheme, the scheme of Zainabia.
Right. It's called the scheme of Zainabia.
Yeah. Okay. Zainabia child sponsorship scheme. I produced that. I produced a paper, and the whole concept was there, right from child education up to university education.
Really?
Even these loans to higher education, it is in that document.
Initial document.
Yes, in the East is there.
Right.
1980. And also there was this concept that you see, even the rich people did not want to send their children to for education in India. શા માટે ભણાવવું છે તે મારો દીકરો છે હું જે કરું છું મારી ઓફિસમાં આવીને બેસશે ભણવાની શી જરૂર છે તો મુલ્લા told them that okay, you don't want to educate them, I will educate them. No, but he's earning. 1,000 rupees a month. Mullah said, okay, under Zainabia, I give you 1,000. I give you 1,000, you release your child for education. So that concept of compensating parents for lots of earnings
Emerged out of
emerged
that.
from
Okay.
that.
So then now Zainabia was, you became the board chairperson
I
as well,
became
yeah.
the, yes.
And subsequent to you then was Muhammad Bhai Visram.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Yes.
So
And I
how
was
do you
there for
see
13 years,
yeah.
and it went very well. And in India, the people who were visiting were Mullah Asghar and Marhum Haidar Haji. And they used to go around, and especially Haidar Haji was going at a lower level,
Right.
because you need to be with the people. And then he would encourage, Mullah used to encourage young people in different cities. In the end, we had 14 organizations formed.
To
To
run the Zainabia
yes,
child
to run
sponsorship.
Zainabia.
So at its peak,
At its
how
peak.
many students were World Federation sponsoring?
11,000 per year.
11,000 per year.
Yeah.
And we now see the results of it.
We see the results now.
Right.
That's
Definitely.
and the awakening for education has come. People now
particularly in
India, they want to be
Our
educated.
community in India, yeah.
And in fact, interestingly, the first Zainabia child sponsorship was in Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah, because when we were forming this,
Right.
Marhum in Toronto, very
Marhum in Toronto. Yes, I know.
Ghulam Sarjan,
Ghulam
Sarjan, Ghulam Sarjan.
Yeah.
Federation are just wasting time. They are just thinking, talking. He started sponsoring in Pakistan.
Right.
Right. He started, and that was
So that gave an impetus for further. Yeah.
yeah. So he started, and it's good. He started child sponsorship. Yeah, and he was sending money. I think he was sponsoring about 13 children. So when Zainabia was formed, we wrote to the Jamaat there, and Anwar Rajpar agreed with the system. He said, okay, now I will form this, I will follow this system, and I will now come under the World Federation.
Okay.
And interestingly, he progressed quite a lot, and a few years later, he used to come to London to meet me and bring the forms. He didn't believe in the post.
Oh, Anwar Bhai.
He would bring the post, and we would sit. He would come to my office at lunchtime. So, and then we would sponsor.
Right.
And then he was the first organization. They said, in Pakistan, we can now afford to educate. So we are coming out of the World Federation, and that was also his decision, and they started sponsoring themselves. And only a month or two after that, we started working through the Gujarat Federation. In those days, there was no council; it was Gujarat Federation. And then Dr. Kapasi and GM Meghani, and they were all involved, and they did a lot of work. The pioneering work was done then.
So a lot of pioneering work was done like that, wasn't it?
Yes.
And also organizations that were there already, charity organization in India. Now the other board was Islamic Education
Islamic
Board.
Education
Board.
Board.
How do you see that?
Yeah, that was also formed, and I think the first chairman of Islamic Education Board was Dr. Merali, Dr. Nizar Merali.
Nizar Merali?
Yeah, Merali was the first chairman. And then it's nice, and he was also thinking of media and the modern. He produced a film, he got it done in Mombasa about namaz and wuzu, and it was quite a good start.
So now we have the three major boards: the MAB, Medical Advisory Board, Zainabia Child Sponsorship Scheme, and the Islamic Education Board. But then the Secretariat expanded quite a lot, because suddenly we found that we have to do a lot of projects in India, particularly after 1991 resolution was passed on poverty. And you were also heavily involved in setting up the housing scheme, and then the school building started. I think our first school was it in Awalkunda? Alipur. That was our first school built. Can you sort of throw some light on it? And then
when the resolution was passed at the World Federation conference, that poverty in Gujarat will be annihilated within 3 years in the term, the 3 years.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And then Mullah phoned, and he phoned Hashubai at that time was the chairman of Gujarat Council.
Right.
Okay, he said, okay, this resolution has passed. Okay, now what? What do you want done? So Hashubai said, the people here don't have houses, so let us start with housing.
But the World Federation carried out some studies first to find out, or was it done by the Gujarat Federation?
No, after their thing,
Yeah.
then Mullah Sahib sent me here.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Here,
That was my first visit to India.
To India.
To,
Okay.
to
First
Gujarat.
visit.
First
You could
visit.
speak Gujarati, okay?
Yes, yes.
Right.
I had learnt in school. And of course, in those days, our teachers were Hindu teachers, and they didn't like our Gujarati. And my teacher, Master Nayak, he was always telling me, Muhsin, tu to Gujarati bhasha nu khoon kari nakhe che. That I remember. And that was his.
How odd that you came to stay in Gujarat.
Gujarat, yes.
Right.
So I came there to study, and this Mullah's comment was, "Alokanu vichar jo, we want to remove poverty." How will housing remove poverty? Housing is a liability. You need to look after it. You need electricity. You need so many things. To remove poverty, you need to do something else, not housing.
Right.
But housing was a major problem here.
Right.
So that was done. And in the end, I think we did about, I went to village by village, as Hashubai took me, village by village, and got interesting episodes, but anyway, they don't need to be recorded. And then in Zainabia, when Mohammad Visra, I used to have volunteers. We relied heavily, World Federation, on volunteers.
And these were hand-picked volunteers,
Hand-picked
who
volunteers.
really had spirit behind it.
Yeah. And there was these 4-5 younger people who would
And
come
amongst
to
them
the
was Mohammad
secretariat.
Isram.
Mohammad Isram was one of them. They would come to the secretariat every Thursday night, and they would administer Zainabia
Voluntarily.
voluntarily. And they would take part. And then it was his idea that we are doing all these things.
Mohammad Isram's
Mohammad
idea?
Isram, he said, why don't we build our school?
Right.
Then he talked to
So
Mullah.
that
The
initiative came
concept
from there.
from Mohammad Isram.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah. And then he talked to Mullah. Mullah said, yes, it's a very good idea. And then our first school was done in Alipur. And Alipur is an entirely Shia village. It's a girls' school, English medium. And it is now a very high level. I sure God, the girls
You've
are.
been there too?
I've been there
recently?
several times.
Several times.
Several times.
And you're happy?
I'm very happy.
Right. Okay. So now, Muhsin bhai, I want to now come to the last part of. You then decided to now retire from all this in United Kingdom and came to the very nice place in Bhavnagar here,
Yes, yes.
which you are sitting.
Yes.
So what made you decide that? Because you born in Zanzibar, you are a Zanzibarian by heart, came to United Kingdom, lived there for such a long time, very heavily
I
involved.
correct you there.
Yeah,
Not Zanzibarian, Zanzibarbarian.
that's your word. So then you came to, somehow you chose Bhavnagar. So
Bhavnagar,
can you
yes.
sort of relate
Yes.
till now, what sort of led you and then how your life is now?
Yes. In England, I spent a lot of my time in youth development and children. For example, when you talked in the days when the Jamaats were formed, I was involved in the madrasa in Stanmore, and in both the madrasa, on the Saturday and the Sunday. I was in both. My aim was education.
Yeah.
Then I used to travel every week to Hyderabad for the madrasa teaching. I used to go to Birmingham. Nawshad Merali used to call me to teach.
Right.
And Milton Keynes, I was going regularly to teach in the madrasa. So I was in that field. Now, and youth development, I tried to do a lot so that the youths needed to be much, much higher.
Right.
In 2004, I felt I was now waning. There was not much for me to do because the youths I had developed, and they were also taking over a lot of the things themselves, and it was working. 2004, I started getting I've got nothing to do. And then my brother Akbar came up with this idea. He says, Muhsin, look, our parents are now getting old and they are suffering in this cold climate.
Right.
If you take them to a warmer climate, their health will improve drastically. So I said, okay, it's a good idea. My mother said, no, I will not leave England because my grandchildren are here. I want to be with them.
Right.
My father said, I will go wherever you go. So I did a desk study. I looked at all the warm places in the world, Florida, East Africa, Madagascar, Malaysia, all these places.
Right.
And in the end, finally, I settled on India.
Right.
And India, I chose Bhavnagar because I used to know Sajjad Bhai Varteji through Hussaini education,
Right.
through the World Federation. I used to work a lot with him. So then that made me come to Bhavnagar. And then he showed me this land next to the school.
Right.
And I bought it, and I designed the house, and he built it for me. And we also developed the school also with that. So I'm very happy with my decision, and I'm doing
And
exactly
Dad
what
came
I
with
wanted
you,
to.
didn't he?
That came with me.
Yeah.
My dad came with me. And interestingly, that Akbar was right. My dad, by the time we left UK, he was bedbound. He could not read. Even if he read newspaper or Quran, his head used to ache.
Okay.
He could not go for namaz. He was very keen on namaz-e-jamaat. Namaz-e-jamaat he would not miss.
So when he came
When
here,
he came here, he was bedbound only for 1 month,
Right.
December 2007.
And
By
after
January, he started walking.
right,
And we were going to the mosque every day for namaz.
and he found the climate very suitable.
Very suitable. It worked with him very well. And he was not alone because the people of Bhavnagar were very hospitable. They would come and meet him and talk to him. And
So he felt part of the
oh yeah,
community.
he blossomed here.
Really.
He blossomed, yes.
And then he passed away, I think,
And then he
1 year
passed
later.
away 1 year later. Yeah.
So now you're what, 11 years here now?
I'm
What
11
are you
years
doing?
here now. I'm trying to help in educational field. I still try to develop the youths.
What, here in Bhavnagar?
In Bhavnagar, yes, to open their minds. There's quite a few things I do. For example, during the month of Ramadan, since 2008, I have a Sehri party every Saturday. In this room where we are sitting. Anybody can come, provided you are an undergraduate or a new graduate. And about 40 come every Saturday.
Right.
And we are here from midnight till Fajr.
Right.
We sit, we discuss, we talk, I get different speakers, and they have now taken over. They bring speakers, we have discussions,
Yeah.
we have Sehri, and in the morning after Fajr,
But
everybody
you're
goes
also
on.
involved quite deeply with the Mahdi School
In Mahdi School,
College
yes,
as well,
yes.
and which now provides education up to is it MCOM?
MCOM, up to MCOM.
And they have a plan to also go beyond that,
Yes.
to university.
Yes. Yes.
Can you
yeah.
throw some light on it?
Yeah. Al-Mahdi Foundation was formed specifically so that a school could be built. Before that, well, I suppose Sajjad Bhai will tell you later what Hussaini education used to do.
Yeah.
So then I started working with the trustees and to help in the school, improving the English and talking, and then calling external experts to come from overseas. We have already had 72 people who have come in the last 11 years.
Since you have come here?
Since I have come here.
Right.
They have always come as a volunteer.
Okay.
I had that concept from before, because when I was in London, in those days I used to send volunteers
Right.
from there.
Yeah. So now you receive them.
Now
here.
I receive them. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so you are also
Alhamdulillah,
involved now
in
the
that.
further expansion of that
Yes.
to university.
Yeah. I also get involved in other schools. I was not, in the beginning, I was not concentrating only on Bhavnagar. And every week I used to be in the Bhavnagar school, Talaja school, Maua school, Ahmedabad, Khambat, and I used to go to Tolka. I used to go to all these places.
Right. Okay.
But now I am concentrating entirely on
Bhavnagar.
Bhavnagar and Maua.
Maua. Okay.
And since 1st of January, Al-Mahdi Foundation has taken over the management of Awalkunda School.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's very
Yes.
good.
And I've just spent a week
Yeah,
there.
I had the opportunity of visiting Al-Mahdi School, and I was very impressed with the standard and all that. So I hope that you will bring the standard of Awalkunda
Inshallah,
to this level.
inshallah.
Yeah.
No, the trustees are very good. The trustees here are a united group. They discuss a lot. They are all hum-fikr. Their thinking is the same.
Right,
Entirely education and quality of education, whatever the cost.
right.
And they meet the cost.
Yeah.
So sometimes they need help from outside.
But otherwise, a very
Otherwise, they are
self-sufficient group. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Mohsin bhai, it was lovely to meet you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very
Right.
much for giving me
Yeah.
the opportunity.
Okay.